Redditors, what's the weirdest thing you've caught a roommate doing? Years ago, I lived with a bunch of strangers in a house and one of the roommates didn't speak English. It was Christmas break. So I'm out of school and have tons of free time. I'm chilling in the common area reading, as I had been doing for a week, and this roommate, who I can't communicate with, starts cooking something spicy on the stove. All of a sudden he starts panicking and yelling in his language. I hear pots banging and furious chopping of vegetables or something. This goes on for 6 hours. Yelling, chopping, yelling, chopping. Finally he comes out from the kitchen 6 hours later with a tiny bowl of soup. I thought, okay, he must have prepped a week's worth of meals and stored the rest. But later that night I leave out the back door and there's this beef soup concoction strewn throughout the lawn. He had dumped pots worth of soup outside. To this day, I'm still not sure what happened with this guy in that kitchen. He was after the perfect bowl of soup. Not me, but a friend. He caught his roommate masturbating over him while he was asleep. Woke up. Asked him WTF. Guy had shirt and no pants, Winnie the Pooh style. Claimed he was looking in friend's room for his icy hot due to a backache. While sporting a boner. Argument ensues. Friend moves out. It was the last straw in a long line of creeper behavior. She would sometimes go out to do Lord knows what and then come in late at night. It would be well after midnight. Sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning. And I would be in bed asleep already. But she would always wake me up because she was so damn loud coming in. She would come in, flip the lights on, and whisper my name a couple times to see if I would respond. I would pretend to be asleep because I didn't really like her or want to talk to her. Especially that late at night. As soon as she thought I was asleep, she would let it rip. I'm talking loud. Long farts. It was really hard not to laugh. Your roommate was a Beyblade. Standing completely naked in the kitchen washing her hair, with my shampoo, in the kitchen sink that was already packed full with dirty dishes. We had 2 showers and 4 bathroom sinks in our apartment, none of which were in use. She would pleasure herself in the shower and scream in ecstasy. Not realizing that just because she couldn't hear us didn't mean we couldn't hear her. It was very uncomfortable. I believe she was just using Herbal Essence shampoo. My old roommate, he was technically the homeowner but lived in a shack in the backyard, would come into my room early in the morning and watch me sleep. I was a bartender at the time, so I would get home about an hour or so before he would be leaving for work. I was always thoroughly passed out when he'd leave and I'm a heavy sleeper, so I did not notice this was happening for months until a guy I was seeing stayed up and caught him opening my door. There was also a second door to my room that I could not open. It was locked from the other side. I don't know what was going on in there, but I'm fairly certain he was spying on me from that room as well. He was a complete crazy person. I once walked out of my room and found him lying on the kitchen floor. I asked if he was alright cause I thought maybe he'd slipped or something, but he said nope. Just wanted to dirty himself before having a shower. Proceeded to make floor angels and lay there for another good 15 minutes or so. I lived with a furry once. And his bedroom had a number of posters, prints of furry characters. Some not dressed all too appropriately. Some not dressed at all. That didn't bug me at all. But I did find it pretty weird how he refused to take them down whenever he had company over. Including his grandmother, who didn't seem to approve of his taste in women or modesty. Came home from work early and found him in just his tighty whities and motorcycle helmet playing a racing game. There's a man who knows how to enjoy life. Lying about taking a shower. Claimed someone broke in and left the mess around the shower, not her. My roommate's cat died. He slept with his dead cat in his bed for like 3 days. Knowing it was dead. He only stopped when it started to smell. This is actually depressing. 3 of my friends all shared a house together, and one day I pop over with one of them after we had been out and about doing some shti. The front door had the chain on, so we went round the back and went in, and there was our other friend naked. Wanking. Stood up. in the kitchen, with his laptop on an ironing board. He just went OFCK and we walked back out and went to the pub nearby. He joined us 20 minutes later for a pint and tried to act like nothing had happened. I'm just laughing at OFCK. I came out around 1 AM to go to the bathroom and heard a weird rustling in the kitchen. I turned the corner and found my roommate sleeping in our sink. Your roomie might be a cat. My roommate was just sitting in his chair at his computer watching PRN. Ants on and everything. When I walked in I could see what it was before he promptly, yet calmly shut it off. He then proceeded to unplug it and work on it for 30 minutes because he thought that something was wrong with it. Edit. The reason why I thought it was weird was that it wasn't the shame of watching PRN in a religious sense or anything. Dude was an atheist. It was more about the fact that he just had to try so hard to put up a ruse of not getting caught watching PRN. Like it would have been the most embarrassing thing ever or something. He was trying to find that perfect video before he took his pants off. Had one roommate in college who spoke in his sleep. He was having a very vivid dream about having an almost too playful snowball fight with our calculus professor. It was strange to say the least. Edit. This is now my highest comment ever. And it's about my freshman roommate's sleep talking. Lol. I had a roommate in college who would constantly brag to people on the phone that he was in the army. A conversation would go something like this. Yo bro, swear to God we flew over the desert and killed like 50 terrorists. I would be like, dude, in your robe, watching TV. When he came back home, his friends threw him a welcome home party as if he was actually in the army. Plus he used to rent military costumes, post pics on Facebook and stuff like that. Guy was catfishing his former roommate. We shared a computer in that house and I came across a chat window he left open revealing a very lengthy and graphic sex session where my roommate was pretending to be a super horny Japanese girl and getting nasty with the other guy. When asked, he claimed it was to get revenge on his old roommate over a security deposit thing. He said he was going to print off all of the chat sessions and mail them to his roommate's mom. I never used the computer again. You were roommates with a true nemesis of someone. Or a guy who was into pretending to be a Japanese chick on the internet. Or both. I walked in on my roommate's girlfriend shaving his ass for him. That image is etched in my mind forever. True love. My roommate was too lazy to take the trash out to the dumpster. So they would just put the full bags of garbage in the outdoor storage closet on our balcony. I had no idea until one day we were cleaning and they say we have to take the other trash out too. There were at least 20 full bags of trash in there. She had this cup full of liquid by her bed. There's no better way to describe it really. She kept her toothbrush in it. Bristles down in the liquid, and when it came to teeth brushing time, she'd basically just take the toothbrush out, brush her teeth, spit into the cup and shove her toothbrush back into her cup. Walked in on 5 of my roommates waterboarding the 6th. It was an ROTC house. And we had discussed the topic before. But I guess after a couple fifths they decided to actually go through with it. The guy getting waterboarded was strapped to our beer pong table with a dishcloth over his head and a female friend, and I walked in as my scariest looking roommate was about to pour a gallon of water on his face. On the upside, my female friend and I went straight upstairs, spraying our clean dishes with Raid to keep the bugs away. Doing a webcam show while I was in the background innocently working on my chemistry homework. Edit. I unfortunately do not know where she posted it or under what name. Until that point I knew she was weird as FCK but didn't know what she was doing. Prior to moving in she called me to ask if she could draw pictures of bunnies committing suicide on our wall. I said no. Moved into a room with bunnies committing suicide on the wall. This episode was only after a few weeks of living together. I ended up moving out shortly after because she was up all night on her webcam and I couldn't sleep. I also once came home to her playing Naked Twister in the living room with strangers. Which, hey, to each their own. But may I have a little warning next time? She also left used tampons around the apartment. That was the final straw for me. Thanks for gold. I didn't even know I had it. Do I do something with it? Edit number 2. Also, I am a girl. Not sure why everyone thinks I'm a boy lol. I had a roommate who had decided that he wanted to start eating food purely for nutritional purposes without any regard for taste or appearance. So I opened the fridge a couple days later to find that all the Tupperware containers and many other dishes filled with this disgusting food that he made. This food was basically a mashed together mixture of frozen vegetables, oatmeal, eggs and some other things that he had heated together in a big pot. Needless to say, he didn't last very long on this diet and ended up throwing most of it away. He's done some other weird things but I can't really remember any right now. Did he by chance roll his concoction into spheres and call them energy balls? Okay. Never thought I'd tell this story, but this is the perfect venue. When I was a sophomore in college, 1983, I had this really odd roommate named Opie. He did a lot of weird shit. But this one stands out. I owned this knife that I guess was technically a switchblade. One day he borrows it and then proceeds to pull down his pants and stab himself in the sack with it. That knife got a thorough cleaning after that. I had a roommate in college who had a thing for making love to very, very large women. He had a room on the ground floor off of living room where we would all hang out. He was too embarrassed to admit his preferences in women, so he would force his hookups to exit through his window. Only problem is our house was L-shaped, and his window was visible from the living room. So on numerous occasions we got to watch large women fall out of his window. And NBSP. Edit. Thanks Reddit. For the vocab lesson, history lesson, and gold. To clarify some of the burning questions. Yes. He was very manipulative. And most definitely a sociopath who preyed on girls with low self-esteem. By very, very large women I mean in the plus 200 lb and up club. But under 6 foot. He thought I had left. Pulls out penis to M. Sturbert. And imitates MLK free at last. Free at last. Never told him. So. Nowadays I say free at last. At random times when referring to M masturbating and I just see this look of fear. Does he know? Yes. Tyler. I know. My old roommate had a picture of he and his mom by his bedside. His mom looked a lot like Dinah Shore, which sort of made sense because so did he when I thought about it. Sort of round face. Blonde hair. And he was gay, so whatever, that's cool, somehow that all fit together in my head. Then one day we were all in his room smoking out and I told him, Rodney, I gotta say your mom looks just like Dinah Shore. He asked, how do you know what my mom looks like? And I pointed to the picture. Rodney says, that's not my mom, that's Dinah Shore. He ran out into the intersection that's just outside his window with a baseball bat to yell, who's F-king honking? In the college dorms. I woke up in the middle of the night to find my roommate staring at me while standing in the middle of the room and coming into a trash can. I've caught my roommates, who are married, having sex. But that's not the weird part. I was homesick one day and I let my friend borrow my car. So, my roommates thought I wasn't home and figured it was a good time to have sex in the kitchen. My room being downstairs with the kitchen was an earshot, so I peeked outside and saw them F-king. It only lasted for about 2 minutes and then the wife starts yelling at the husband about how pathetic he is in bed and he can't please her and he comes too fast. It was F-king brutal. I'm pretty sure the husband started crying. Later that day, when I got home, the husband starts bragging to me about how he and the wife F-ked all over the house that day. I said nothing and let him have that moment. He needed it. My 15-year-old stepbrother who was staying at my family's house thought he had the entire place to himself. I come out of my room to find some food after sleeping in really late. As I'm walking down the hallway toward the living room, I can hear the TV on, but turned down almost all the way. Something tells me to peek around the corner instead of just walking into the living room. And what I saw still haunts me to this day. He was not sitting on the couch masturbating. He was squatting on top of the cushion, staring at the TV with his mouth hanging open and masturbating. I immediately look away and start to walk back down the hallway as quickly and quietly as possible, trying to tell my shaken self that I didn't just see that. And I hear it. The TV was turned up just enough to where the last thing I hear before taking refuge in my room was that iconic dun dun from Law and Order. What the FCK? To this day I've coined his particular style as the gargoyle. This one wasn't so much caught, but I came home from work one night to find my roommates, 2 guys and a girl, sitting on the floor of our living room facing the front door. Lights off. Wearing hoodies with the hoods up. Lit by apple scented candles. Chanting Chris Cross Apple Sauce. I believe I simply took this scene and went to my room. But I think I probably laughed. Trying and failing to inject benzodiazepine into their rectum with a medical syringe. My college dorm mate had this weird thing with wanting me to think she was cool or fun or something. So every time I came home and put my key in to unlock the door, she would start hysterically laughing at whatever show she had on. I tested it multiple times to make sure. Tiptoe up to the door, nothing. Stood there for a couple seconds and then put the key in, hysterical laughter to the point of tears. So creepy and weird. I moved out the following semester. I've told this before, but many years ago I lived in a party house. Always a crazy scene. One night was a typical Saturday bacchanalia. I went to bed relatively early and got up in the morning. My roomie was asleep on the sofa in a sitting position, snoring away. In one hand he had a fully cooked pork chop. In the other hand he had a salt shaker. My walking around had roused him. He woke up, glanced around all bleary-eyed, then looked at his hands. He slowly shook some salt on his pork chop and started eating it. Breakfast of champions. I never asked where he got the pork chop or how he slept for 6 hours without dropping the pork chop or the salt shaker. It was what it was. Oh. Just shooting steroids into his butt. The day I lost my faith was the day I realized that online gamers, like my roommate, still do online SX roleplay on Minecraft. The straight 90-degree curves on those babes gives me a diamond pickaxe. Had a roommate thatched tea in her pants and hid her dirty drawers in her dresser. She also walked funny. I asked her why she walked that way and she told me, I didn't want to step on my tail. I was in the psych ward for an eval. I was deaf, not the craziest person in the room. Walked in on my roommate stuffing condoms and Taco Bell hot sauce into a piata. Sounds like a party to me. One of my roommates used to flush food down the toilet. Once I saw her flushing a shitty ton of spaghetti noodles and another time an apple core. I guess she thought that was what you did with unfinished food. Oh, that's what you do with finished foods too. While at college, my then GF and I walked out of my room after having SX to see my roommate crouched on top of our table just squatting there eating Cheez-Its staring at us while smiling. Did he do it on purpose? That's actually pretty f***ing funny. Way better of a response and a weird but seemingly effective way to make the tension even. We had this Croatian guy who basically spent all of his time at our house, so he was considered a roommate. One time I came home at 7 AM, mistake were made and I fled the scene, and I saw him standing in front of our George Foreman grill, dipping bread in the historical fat pit that hasn't been cleaned out in ages. Yes, he was eating the George fat. Delicious. Peeing in our cups from the kitchen. Dude would piss in them and put them back in the cupboard. Yeah, he washed them, but that didn't make a difference to me. Another guy would disappear to his bedroom before he hit the gym. We found out he was beating his willy because it boosted his testosterone before a workout. The jerking off thing kind of makes sense, but peeing in cups is just an agent of chaos. He thought I was asleep in our single room dorm, so he started masturbating. Worst part is this was a regular occurrence and we actually had a bathroom in our room. Dorm was a renovated hotel, but he chose not to do it in there.